And I always wondered why, me not knowing you, I assumed the worst. And I think that that's bad. And and I want to admit to you that, I'm having a real candid moment, and I'm enjoying the idea that I could say this publicly, just to show the realness of what I'm saying. When you challenged some of what I said, and you said, Brother Zion, I'm not saying Kramer's work doesn't have value, but there are areas of his work that have been updated since the publication of his works. And maybe, Brother Zion, I'm paraphrasing, you just haven't been exposed to the update. Kramer's work has value. We're not saying it doesn't have any value, but there are certainly things that he has published long ago that has been updated, right? So, in reading his work on the page that you mentioned, which is page 286, this is where my enlightenment came from, right? He's quoting a Sumerian flood myth where he says on the top of page 286, after An, Enki, and Ninhursag had fashioned the black-headed people, vegetation luxuriated from the earth, animals four-legged of the plain were brought artfully into existence. So obviously they have their own creation story. They also have their own unique flood story. We're going to get into that next. But the thing that changed my mind was Kramer's mention here that all of humanity is considered the black-headed ones. So as you're demonstrating lexically, and Kramer points out in the literature, you cannot isolate the term black-headed to refer to any one racial group. And also, to be clear, Kramer also says, and he says this in on page 284 in the last paragraph, I'm going to quote, and this is for people who are saying Sumerians are white. Kramer says, there is at present, meaning by the time of the publication of his book, no evidence known to me that the Sumerians had any contact with or knowledge of people living in Northern Asia, China, or anywhere on the European continent. Kramer's writing this as a European, right? So he's also speaking to another distinct racial group in their attempt to racialize the term. So I want to admit to you, Brother Chuck, that when I mentioned to you that I had changed my mind in some sense on what black-headed means because I saw in the literature that it referred to all of humanity, I was actually referring to Kramer's writing here. I didn't read it in any separate independent work. I read it through Kramer's work right here.